Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on the yogic life. So I actually wanted to send you guys the new pravachan. Let me do that now. I did not send it before, so I'll send it to you right now. Or did I actually send it? Okay, I did not send that. Okay. So I have just sent you the new pravachan today. We'll be talking about that today. You can all kindly open. I'll also share my screen. So, the first thing I want to say before we read the Karapatram or the pravachan is that the most important facet in the life of any sadhaka is having a goal, right? Without a goal, life is essentially aimless. It's an aimless voyage where you're just juggling between one thing to another. You have one transient pursuit to another, right? That is why it is very, very important to have a goal in life. And what can be the best goal in life is Brahma. Brahma is the best goal in life. So everything requires a base. Anything that you do, you require a base, right? And if life doesn't have a strong base, then it becomes disrupted even by an ordinary storm, right? Even little bit of struggle, then we lose it, right? We don't know how to handle it. So we need to have a strong base. And what can be the strongest base for us, right? A strongest base for us cannot be anything which is material, right? Because all the material things in this world are transient, right? They're temporary. They're not sthayi. They're not permanent. So what is the only thing that can be our permanent base, the strongest base, is Brahma. So when one has taken Brahma as the goal, then what happens is that they get the strength to manage all the storms of life, and also you get the opportunity to reach the supreme rank. You get the opportunity to reach the infinite, right? So essentially what we are saying is that every human being, they have this manava dharma, which is to attain the infinite. And in order to attain that infinite, what is the strongest base that we can take, or what should be the best goal of life should be? That is, the best goal of life is Brahma. So so in that regard, when having said that the goal of life is Brahma, so in that regard, one thing is very important to know: the spiritual procrastination is deadly, right? So you know that Brahma is the goal of life, but even then you are not having the courage to go in that direction. You're spiritually lazy, right? I know it, but I don't have the courage to do it, or I'm just lazy. I have not set my mind on it, right? So then what happens is that then when you have the spiritual procrastination, spiritually you want to delay, it is the best goal of life is Brahma, all of it, the human dharma is to attain the infinite, all of it, but then even then you feel lazy. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Why should I do it today? I'll just do it tomorrow. I'm still very young, I'm only 15 years old, I'm only 18 years old. Why should I do it now? I'll do it when I'm 60 years old, right? No. So that spiritual procrastination is a deadly thing, right? So what happens is that even though it's essentially what it means is that even though you know the goal, but you have lost sight of it. You have lost sight of the most important goal of life, and we have focused our life on all the other important things, right? Like whether it be job or studies, or whether it be whatever it may be, right? We have lost sight of the most important goal of life, and we have focused our attention on other things of life. So this for what kind of a person this happens, right? This especially happens to those who become very overconfident. They become very overconfident of themselves, and they don't follow all these rules that we have talked about, right? Essentially, Yoga Nishtha Jivana means having a discipline and following all the rules that we have talked about, whether it is Nirjala Upavasa, or whether it is Satvik Ahara, whether it is asanas, whether it is Vyapak Soch, whatever, all of those things that we have talked about to do on a daily basis. We forget of all of that, and we don't keep Brahma as the adhara. We don't keep Brahma as the base for us. right? So what they do is they become overconfident, they arrogantly and they mistakenly think that they have everything under their own control, right? So another cause of degeneration of the mind is the spiritual procrastination. So whereby they keep, putting off doing the spiritual practice. They don't want to do sadhana, they don't want to sit in sadhana until they completely forget everything that they have learned. They forget how to do sadhana, they forget, how to engage in the yogic life, they forget all of it, right? So it's very important to understand. We should constantly remind ourselves every day that spiritual procrastination is deadly. Am I doing spiritual procrastination? Is the first thing we need to ask ourselves. Am I doing spiritual procrastination? So if we are doing it, then we need to take measures to correct ourselves, right? So what happens is that people get people have spiritual procrastination. Due to spiritual procrastination, in the course of their living, in the course of their day-to-day living, what happens, they get caught up in the laugika bhautika attachments. They get caught up in the bhautika vastu, right? They get caught up in the material things, and what happens, they're just prone to a slow steady degradation of the mind. When you get caught up in the material things, so then essentially you're abusing your human dharma, you're abusing that infinite desire, you're applying that infinite desire to all these finite things. So then what happens, the end result is that you lose sight of the goal. We started with saying that the best goal of life is Brahma, and because of the spiritual procrastination and getting attached to the material things, you lose sight of the goal. So we have countless examples of this, right? So where people, we have so many sadhakas who came into the spiritual path and then they completely lost track of it, and then they went back into this pashu jivana, right? So it's very important that we remember that all those rules that we learned, right, whether it is satvik ahara or nirjala upavasa, so we need to constantly monitor and we need to ask, right, am I doing all of these things on a daily basis? Am I doing it? What is it that I'm not doing, and what is it that I can start implementing right from today, right? We need to self motivate, and how we can do the self motivation is by doing an introspection, right? Throughout the day or throughout the week, we need to ensure our thoughts, words, deeds are in accordance with the dharma, right? Everything that we are doing, are they in line with the dharma, right? This should be done in a very, very particular manner, because often we can get caught in our own ego, right? We can get caught up in our own ego, in which case they will not be able to analyze whether they're doing right or wrong, right? So we have to be very, very independent in doing this, right? Like an independent third party, just like when you have when you finished a work at work in the office, if you've been given a job and you finished the job and your supervisor reviews the job, right? A supervisor is an independent party who reviews your job and then says, okay, this is what you've done good and this is what you've not done good, right? So he does a review. So similarly in the exam, you go and write your exam, and then some supervisor reviews your exam and says, okay, you got this much of grade and you have not done this much correctly, this is what you've got, right? So you can do a review like that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. You need to introspect yourself and say, okay, what is it that I'm doing correct and what is it that I'm doing wrong, right? So this is a special approach. So what is this approach? This self introspection is like, for instance, if you say we have a sadhaka who is called as Krishna, right? So then how does this Krishna do a self review? Is that Krishna, the sadhaka Krishna, must look upon himself as a third party, and he must inquire. He must consider himself as a third party, and he must inquire. So he must say, oh Mr. Krishna, you're not being strict in taking satvik ahara. So suppose in case in that week excuse me, in that week, if you have not been strict in taking satvik ahara, then this Krishna, who is a third party, who will review, and he'll say that, oh, you have not been strict in taking satvik ahara, or oh Mr. Krishna, you are not doing your sadhana lessons, you're not doing sadhana regularly, or Mr. Krishna, you have not been doing your nirjala upavasa, right? Or you have not been doing your asanas every day, you have not been doing asanas twice a day. Like that, by looking upon oneself as a third party, then one can overcome the trappings of the ego, and they can do proper introspection. So in this way, introspection is the technique for checking one's own dealings, right? Am I working, am I operating according to the path of spirituality? Am I going on the path of dharma? Am I following the manava dharma? Am I doing everything that is required, right? So, right, and also you can have a checklist also. In addition to the introspection, you can have other techniques to keep yourself fixed in the path of dharma. So initially till you are established in this path, until all of those things that we talked about becomes your swabhava, till then you have to be very, very strict in monitoring, doing a self introspection, making sure, making a checklist and making sure, am I doing all of this properly? Am I doing satvik ahara? Am I doing asanas? Am I doing this? Every day you can have a checklist and you can keep checking, oh, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? So then you can know what you have missed and how I can implement this. So this is the only way for you to monitor yourself, because on a daily basis you are the best judge in terms of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And so you can do that by this self introspection. That is one of the very nice methods of making sure that you don't have spiritual procrastination. So to maintain a proper movement on this path, right, one must use all of those things that I talked about, right? These are very, very invaluable tools for a sadhaka, for every sadhaka, right? In fact, for not only for a sadhaka, for every human being, introspection, making a checklist, having a proper guide, and making sure that you're following all of those things, right? So if you look at it, like, because the animals and plants, right, they follow their instincts according to their basic instincts, that they abide by the nature. And on the other hand, the human beings have a free will, right? We have swatantra ichcha. Swatantra ichcha is something that we talked about before. So in addition to having this the desire for the infinite, the human dharma is to attain the infinite, have a desire for the infinite. In addition to that, there is upadharma, and that upadharma is free will, swatantra ichcha. Human beings are the only ones who have this swatantra ichcha. Animals and plants, they don't have the swatantra ichcha. They operate according to their instincts, according to their design. But human beings, we have the capacity to act accordance with the human dharma, or we can act against it. So we have a choice. So we have a free will. We can act according to the dharma, human dharma, or against it. So that is why it is very, very important to regularly observe and reflect upon our conduct in an unbiased manner. Then what will happen? We will know if we are following the right path or we have come away from it, right? So this is very, very important. So for all of us who have come into this yogic life, discipline is very, very important. It's very important. Initially we need to be very disciplined, and we need to make sure how we can make all of these practices that we talked about into our subhava, right? So that is what the unique quality of human beings is, dharma sadhana, right? Is to do the sadhana, and that is the quality which should be encouraged, right? So sadhana, so here in our class we have Shubham Bhagini, who has learned sadhana. She has come to the Shivir. So for those of you who have not come to the Shivir last year, make every effort to come to the Shivir this year. It will be in December. So come to the Shivir, learn how to do asanas, learn how to do sadhana, all of it, and how to lead a yogic life. You learn all of that in the Shivir. So I encourage all of you to start thinking about it, because just reading the pravachans is not going to do much, right? Even though it has some value, but as we've been saying, that yoga is 99% practice and 1% theory, and the theory is also for implementation. So having said all that, so unless you experience how it is to lead a yogic life, and what is it to do sadhana, it's not really yogic life. So the real yogic life is when you learn sadhana and when you engage in this yogic life on a day-to-day basis. So for you to get that full experience, I would ask you all to plan now itself. Keep your time free in December for the yoga shivir. Okay, so having said that, so I would just like to conclude that it becomes our duty to perform this introspection and analysis on a daily basis. We must look back and we must look back upon a record of our past actions, right? So this human body is a machine, so it was not designed for material pleasures or sentimental delight, right? So even though we are very very prone to that, we are very prone to material things, material pleasures, right? But we should not allow ourselves to be guided by that kind of instinct or sentiment, right? So through regular introspection we'll become best to be able to ensure our thoughts, words, deeds are in accordance with what we have been discussed, in accordance with the manava dharma, right? Our thoughts, deeds, words, everything should be in accordance with the manava dharma, should be with the focus of attaining the infinite, right? So having said that, we will actually go into our next pravachan. What is uh, what is dharma? Sorry, what is this world? So what is this world? Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Bhagini.
आं भगिनि.
Okay, okay, okay. So we can actually get started. So Shubha Bhagni, you want to take the first paragraph?
Sure, Bhagini. What is this world? As Brahma is the supreme multiple of the multiplicities of unit consciousness, it is consciousness in its totality. It has been shown earlier that every unit consciousness is non-causal, and so is Brahma. The multiple of all the unit consciousness can only be infinite if the multiplicity of unit consciousness is infinite. Hence, the number of unit consciousnesses has to be infinite. A question here arises about the manner in which Brahma became the multiple of all the unit consciousnesses. Did the infinite number of unit consciousnesses existed before Brahma, or did Brahma
Shubham,
multiply itself?
some reason your voice is continuously breaking in between. Is it only for me or for others also? Yeah, okay, go ahead, Bhagni.
Going feeble, that's all.
Huh?
It's going feeble. That is the.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, Bhagni, try one more time. We'll see how it goes.
Should I start again?
Okay, would you be able to like log out and log in one more time? For some reason, the connection is bad.
Okay.
Okay, you can read now, Bhagini.
As Brahma is the supreme multiple of the multiplicities of unit consciousness, it is the consciousness in its totality. It has been shown earlier that every unit consciousness is non-causal, so is Brahma. The multiple of all the unit consciousnesses can only be infinite if the multiplicity of unit consciousness is infinite. Hence, the number of unit consciousness has to be infinite. A question here arises about the manner in which Brahma became the multiple of all the unit consciousnesses. Did the infinite number of unit consciousnesses exist before Brahma, or did Brahma multiply itself into infinite units and hence is called the multiple of unit consciousness? Is the voice fine now, Bhagini?
Yeah, it is better. It is better. Yeah.
Okay. So in this paragraph, it is written that Brahma is multiple of multiplicities of unit consciousness, and so they are discussing ki unit consciousness is non-causal, like it has no reason. So Brahma also have no reason. Brahma is also non-causal because it is multiple of multiplicities of unit consciousness, and uh, because since Brahma is infinite, so multiple of unit consciousness can also be infinite. Then only Brahma can infinite. So here a question comes that Brahma, in which manner Brahma has become the multiple of unit consciousness? For becoming Brahma, Brahma have to multiply itself into infinite units, or unit consciousness have to exist before Brahma, and hence is called the multiple of unit consciousness.
Ha, Bhagini. Yes. Yes, yes. Nicely said. So, okay. So what we're actually going to be talking in this pravachan is about the world in which we live, right? So we are going to be talking about the world in which we live, and we are going to deal with a particular question about uh, you know did the jivatmas come first or the Brahma came first, right? Which came first? So Brahma came first, and then the jivatmas, the unit consciousness, came into being, or which came first, right? So we've talked about how jivatma is non-causal, right? Jivatma doesn't have a cause, right? When we say non-causal, means doesn't have a cause, doesn't have a karana. So we also talked about the Purusha, the cosmic consciousness, and we said the Purusha is also non-causal. Purusha also does not have a cause. So when we look at a pot, right, we can say that the cause of the pot is mud, right? So like that, when we look at a steel pan, we can say that the cause of the steel pan is the steel. Or when we look at a gold jewelry, we can say the cause of the gold jewelry is gold, right? The original gold. So like that, we can know that there is a cause for each and everything. So like that, is there a cause for jivatma? There is no cause for jivatma. There is also no cause for the Purusha. Purusha is also non-causal. So now we can ask, right, we can ask the question, which came first? What is the relationship between jivatma and Purusha, between jivatma and Brahma? What is the relationship? So if we understand that, right, upon understanding that, then we will talk about this world. How did this world come into existence? This is the Srishti. How did the Srishti happen, right? This paridrishyamanam jagat, the jagat that we are seeing in front of us, how did that come into existence, right? So here we are starting out with this phrase called multiple of multiplicities of unit consciousness. So each person, each individual has a jivatma, has a unit consciousness, and there is an infinite number of unit consciousnesses, right? And it is being explained here that the multiple of all of those taken in the sum total is Brahma. The multiple of all those jivatmas, the infinite number of jivatmas, sum total of all of that is Brahma. So then the question arises ultimately as to whether the infinite number of unit consciousnesses existed before Brahma, or did Brahma multiply itself into these infinite units, and hence Brahma became hence Brahma is called as multiple of unit consciousnesses. So that is the question over here. Which came first? So so that is what is the question. So that is going to be explained further, right? That is going to be explained further in the following paragraphs. So the following paragraphs we'll be talking about how this Jagat came into existence. So let's move on to the next paragraph. Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to take the next one?
Bhagini. It was explained earlier that unit consciousness is non-causal and that every person has a unit consciousness or Atman. The history of the earth, however, reveals that humans are not causeless. They are not even the first living beings that came into the earth. The earth was formed from the sun. It was only a ball of fire in the beginning. Gradually it cooled down and became full of water, and then land appeared. This was followed by the formation of the plant and the animal kingdom, and it was only after this that human beings evolved. Human beings are therefore dependent on the earth for their origin and cannot be said to be non-causal. But as Atman or unit consciousness is causeless, it could not have come into being with human beings and should have existed even before them. Unit consciousness must have existed even before the evolution of human beings. Otherwise, how could they get an Atman or unit consciousness? Before the creation of human beings, the unit consciousness could have only existed in the cosmic consciousness, as both these are non-causal. And as cosmic consciousness is only a multiple of unit consciousness, it was only with the creation or evolution of humans that unit consciousness was reflected in them. Cosmic consciousness as a multiple of unit consciousness must be synonymous with them. Thus we see that the infinite number of unit consciousness did not originally exist as units. Brahma reflected itself as numerous unit consciousness, and that is why Brahma is termed the multiple of all unit consciousness. This also shows that human beings derive their Atman or unit consciousness only from the cosmic consciousness. So this paragraph gives us some light on this one of unit consciousness and the cosmic consciousness. So actually we see that human beings didn't come first, only the earth. There was nothing, and we know that every person has a unit consciousness. Now also the history of the earth reveals that humans are not causeless. They are not even the first living beings that came into the earth. The earth was formed from the sun, and first it was a ball of fire, and then it got water, it was filled up with water, and it got land. And then only first the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom only came into the earth, and then only the human beings were evolved. Human beings are therefore dependent on the earth for their origin and cannot be said as non-causal, whereas the cosmic consciousness and Brahma is said to be non-causal.
Not casual, it's causal. Causal.
Okay, non-causal. Okay. But so they both are non-causal, whereas human beings are causeless. But as
causal.
Atman or
not causeless. Human beings have a cause.
Yes, human beings are causeless rather. They both are non-causal, but human beings are causeless.
Human beings have a cause, not causeless.
They are not causeless. Sorry, are not causeless. But as Atman or unit consciousness is causeless, it could not have come into being or existed before the evolution of. It could not have come into being without human beings, with human beings, and should have even existed before them. Unit consciousness must have existed even before the evolution of human beings. The unit consciousness could have only existed in the cosmic consciousness, as both are non-causal. And as cosmic consciousness is only a multiple of unit consciousness. Now, this cosmos consciousness is a multiple of unit consciousness, and must be synonymous with them. Thus, we see that the infinite number of unit consciousness did not originally exist as units. It was actually the Brahma who reflected himself as the number of numerous unit consciousness, and that is why Brahma has turned the multiple of all the unit consciousness as said in the first paragraph. This also shows that human beings derive their Atman or unit consciousness only from the cosmic consciousness. So the cosmic consciousness of Brahma, which is non-causal, was the first existence, and then only the human beings came into existence. The earth, the plant kingdom, animal kingdom, and the human beings came into existence. The human beings alone came into existence along with the unit consciousness derived from Brahma or cosmic consciousness. This paragraph tells that.
Okay, Bhagini. Nicely said. So yeah, that is actually the idea over here. So human beings are not without a cause. Human beings have a cause, right? Human beings came into existence as per the Darwinian evolution and is very well documented. Each human being has a beginning and an end. And human beings as a species had a beginning before which there were not human beings, right? So both the things are the case. However, unit consciousness, as we have already discussed, does not have a cause, right? There is nothing behind that. If we trace looking at a book, right? If you go back and back and back and back, and how the process works, we ultimately get back to the consciousness, which is unqualified and beyond the karya karana bhava, right? So eventually everything originated from Brahma. So the human beings had a beginning, but that jivatma, the unit consciousness, it does not have a beginning. So then we know, however, that okay, so human beings have a beginning and jivatma does not have a beginning. That means that jivatma must be existing before the human being, right? The jivatma is causeless. It was always there. It did not have a cause. It is always there. But the human beings originated only at a particular point in time. They have a beginning. So that means jivatma must have existed before the human being. So, but when we talk about the jivas in general, the jivas like the animals, plants, right? All of those jivas have a jivatma, right? The jivatma is not only present in human beings, but it's also present in all the other jivas like plants, animals. In all of them, the jivatma is present. So the jivatma, which is present in all jivas, predates the jivas, predates the human beings, predates the all the jivas. But the jivatma, whether in an insect or within a human being or within any other living being, that when it's present in a human being or living being, it has an adhara. It has an adhara. This it is not omnipresent throughout the universe. So it's linked with the mind of that jiva, right? It's linked to the mind of the jiva. So when we have this jivatma, so the jivatma, it operates within a particular structure, and it is linked to the mind of that particular jiva. So before that jiva existed, then it was not limited or bound up, right? So before the jiva came into existence, before the human being came into existence, even then the unit consciousness existed. It existed in a potential form, in the form of an infinite number of those unit consciousness, and they were not bound up. They were not bound up by the jivas. So they are existing in a seed form, and the collective of all of those unit consciousness, those infinite unit consciousness, we call as Brahma or Purusha. We call as Brahma, or we call it as Purusha. So the teaching over here is that the ultimate material, ultimate samagri for all of this universe is Purusha, is the supreme consciousness. Supreme consciousness is the material for all of this universe, right? And that is when we talk about this multiplicity of unit consciousness, the supreme multiple of multiplicities of unit consciousness. So we see that the cosmic consciousness is only a multiple of unit consciousnesses. So what do we mean by that? The cosmic consciousness is a multiple of unit consciousness. So what we are getting at is that there is an ultimate substance, and that ultimate samagri, which is Purusha, and from which this whole Srishti has come. So therefore this Purusha is a multiple of all these multiplicity of unit consciousness, right? So in fact the Purusha is not only sum total of all the jivatmas that are there in the jivas, but also all the unit consciousnesses which are in the potential form, which are in the seed form, which are not in a jiva, right? Which can be potentially manifested. So the Purusha is the sum total of all of those consciousnesses, both which are manifested in the jivas and also which are unmanifested, which are in the potential form, right? So the Purusha is the one who does not come from something else. Everything else in this universe is coming from that Purusha. So if you want to make bhat, right, you want to make rice bhat, then you need to have chawal, you need to have rice, then you can make the rice bhat. So like that, when you want to make this universe, what do you need? Like chawal, what is the ingredient that you need to make this universe? This universe is made of the Purusha. This whole universe, everything is Purusha, nothing but Purusha. Everything is Purusha. This book is Purusha, this pen is Purusha, this you and I, everything in this universe is made of Purusha. So like when you take rice and we mix it with water and you bring it to, you boil it, then you get the annam in the pot, you get the chawal in the pot, right? You get the bhat in the pot. So in that way, everything in this universe is made of that Purusha. So Purusha is the only ingredient, right, from which this is the ultimate ingredient out of which this whole universe is made, and that ultimate ingredient is Purusha. So that Purusha did not come from anything else, because all of the jivas are sadi, they have an adi, right? They have a beginning. The jivas, all the jivas including human beings, we have a beginning, right? They have a beginning, and they are the things that allow for the Purusha to be subdivided. So the Purusha is subdivided into all these jivas. Everything else is Purusha, which is potentially able to be divided. So you have whole Purusha, and that Purusha, which is the supreme consciousness, is divided into these jivas, which is divided into these jivatmas, which have the adhara in the jivas. And in addition to that, there are other unit consciousnesses which are not manifested, which are in the potential form. So the Purusha is the sum total of all of those which are divided and those which are not divided, right? So when we talk about the jivatma being anadi, we're saying the jivatma is anadi, right? It doesn't have an adi, it doesn't have a beginning nor an end. So we are talking about that very samagri of Purusha being anadi. When we say jivatma is anadi, we're talking about Purusha being anadi, right? It hasn't been divided into actual separate jivatmas, right? When you say jivatma being anadi, we're talking about the samagri of Purusha being anadi, that which hasn't been divided into separate jivatmas. It gets divided when we get a jiva, and who can be the adhara of that jivatma. The Purusha gets divided when there is a jiva which can become the adhara for the jivatma. But the jivatma and Paramatma are the same thing, right? Jivatma either being in the potential form or actually in the manifested form, we get the jiva, which can house the jivatma, right? But it's the same thing. Jivatma is not different from the purusha or the paramatma. When it is in a potential form, jivatma, then we are talking about that paramatma. In the potential form, it is the paramatma. So that paramatma does not require a jiva to come into actual existence as its own entity, right? The paramatma doesn't require a sharira, it doesn't require a body, whereas the jivatma, in order to have a separate existence from other jivatmas, every one of us on the phone, on this call, each of us have a separate jivatma by the virtue of our mind and body, which is creating an environment in which it can be separate, right? But without that, it is just like fire cannot be separated. You have two sticks which are on fire. If you bring both the sticks together, then the fire becomes one, right? There is no natural separation between them. You're holding them into separate places, but they're not actually able to become separate in and of themselves, right? It is only because of the kshiti tattva, it is because of the prithvi of the burning wood, right? You have two sticks of wood that are burning. When you bring them together, the two sticks of wood, the wood doesn't become one, the wood is separate. So the wood is made of prithvi, the kshiti tattva does not become one, but the fire becomes one. The kshiti tattva remains separate. If you have two books and you bring them together, they don't become one, they are separate because they're made of kshiti tattva, they're made of prithvi. So prithvi maintains its separateness, whereas you look at fire, you bring fire together, two sticks of wood burning, and you bring that fire together, they become one. The sticks don't become one, but the fire becomes one. So when you have an actual human body, then you get the capacity to divide that purusha into different units, which we can call as jivatma. But all of those were pre-existing in potential form before that, unable to be divided, just like fire cannot be divided until it has an adhara, which is the stick. So when you have the stick, then you can have two separate sticks with fire. Otherwise, until you have that adhara, you can't divide fire. Same way, the purusha cannot be divided into multiple units until you have an adhara, which is the jivas. So just like the fire, how you can divide the fire when you have an adhara, otherwise you cannot. The adhara is a stick, then you can divide fire. So ultimately there is oneness of Brahma, which is the base, right? Then you get all the actual jivas, which we are going to talk about later on. So when we get jivas, then you get the realization of that potential jivatmas. So when you get the jivas, when you have the jivas, whether it is plant, animals or human beings, then the potential jivatmas, they get separated, because now you have the body as an adhara. Just like the sticks of wood separates the fire, just like that the jivas, the different jivas, they are the bodies, the different bodies, the different structures, physical structures, they help to separate, they help to realize that potential jivatma, and they house the jivatma in that body, right? Whether it is an earthworm or a mosquito or an elephant or a human being, all of them have a jivatma. So we get the answer to that question over here. The question being, did the infinite number of unit consciousness exist before Brahma, or did Brahma multiply itself into infinite unit consciousness, multiply its infinite unit consciousness into infinite units, and hence is called a multiple unit consciousness? So here the answer is that because without a body, those jivatmas are only existing in potential form, so there is a need for a body in order to actually realize themselves as a separate jivatmas. So until there are bodies, then the jivatmas cannot be separate. So whereas the Brahma does not require a physical body like that, Brahma is existing even without a body. So the default initial stage is Brahma, and then we get this whole story which has been described over here in brief, how this earth was formed from sun. And first the akasha was formed, and then later on agni tattva came into being. That is, the sun was formed, agni tattva, and then the sun was initially a ball of fire, and then it cooled down, and it became water, and then initially you get all these jivas, you get the plants, you get one-celled beings, you get animals, and then ultimately you get the human beings, right? All of that what allowed for this subdivision, because it requires a body to house the actual manifestation of the jivatma, right? So what the main idea here is that what you need to keep in mind is that there is only one samagri for this whole universe. There is only one material for this whole universe, and that raw material for this universe is consciousness, is that Purusha. That the nature of the consciousness, nothing about what it changed, right? You created an adhara which is able to hold one portion of it. So you have a big, you can say, if you think about the consciousness as one big ball, and then a portion of it became jivas, right? A portion of it became jivas, and it got housed in different jivas, and the remaining portion of that ball of consciousness is still there, and which is in the potential form, in the potential units. And if there are jivas which are further developed, then these unit consciousness will get housed in those jivas. So you can think like that, right? So but nothing about the consciousness changed. The consciousness did not get created. The jivatma did not get created. It did not get created when we created the body and the mind. What was already existent, the consciousness is always existing, right? It did not get created because the jivas got created. It was always there, and when the jivas came, then the consciousness got attached to those jivas. They got housed in the jivas. The jivatmas got housed in the jivas. That jivatma was there even before it became linked with that body and mind. It was always there, and it never changed. The consciousness never changed. So it is actually just like a cup. So if you take the cup that is holding the water that is floating on the ocean, if you take the cup, let's say there is ocean of consciousness, and let's say there is a cup that is holding the water, and that cup is floating on the ocean, right? If you take the cup away, or if you turn it upside down and take the cup away, then the water just merges right back into the ocean. So the water in the cup is the jivatma, right? The water in the cup is the jivatma. So if you remove the cup is the mind. If you remove the cup, then the water in that cup just merges with the ocean. So the ocean is the Purusha. The ocean is the Purusha. The water in the cup is the jivatma, and you can think of the cup as the mind and the body and everything. You can think of it as a jiva. You can think of the cup as a jiva, right? Then if the body and mind just goes away, then the water in that cup, which is a jivatma, which just gets merged with that ocean. So that's what it's essentially you can understand, is that if you take the cup away, then the water becomes one. It was there before, and it did not get created. So the jivatmas did not get created. It just got separated. It got held separated by the cup. But as soon as you remove the cup or move the cup, there is one water. So it did not get created. So all we can say is that the jivatmas got separated. That separation is a very, very superficial separation. Okay, and that in human life, what we talk about is this ego. This ego is the one that separates the jivatma from the paramatma. So that ego is like, I am Rama, Shama, Leela, Sita, right? Who we think of, that we have a specific name, right? And that makes us to feel separate from paramatma. That feeling of separation is all that exists, right? But the consciousness that we have was not created by that jiva, by the jiva, right? The consciousness always existed. The jivatma always existed. Is that clear? Any questions on this? So also, see, whatever has been explained over here very, very beautifully in this paragraph, the whole Srishti, how the Srishti came into being, it's not explained anywhere else like this so beautifully from starting to the finish. So you can get glimpses of it, in different texts, but nowhere you can get this kind of a complete analysis of how the Srishti happened, right? Like for instance, you might get little bit of it in the Vedas, where it says how atmanah akashah sambhutah akashat vayoho agnihi agnehe apah abhyah adbyah prithvi. So in some of the Upanishads they talk about this, how this this jagat came, right? From Atma, Akasha came, and then from Akasha Vayu came, from Vayu Agni came, from Agni water came, and from water Prithvi, the Kshiti Tattva came. So that is what is being said. But here in this text that we are talking about, in this pravachan that we are talking about, it completely lays down all of it from starting to finish, the Srishti Chakra. So it's a complete overview how the Srishti happened, and you get a very, very good understanding of how the Srishti happened. Okay, I said a lot of things over here. Any questions? Okay, is it making sense, Pushpalata Bhagini?
Yes. One question, only one question. So now Brahma and Purusha are the same. Are they the same? That doubt.
So Brahma, when we say it, Brahma is the collective of Prakriti and Purusha. When we say Brahma, it has both Prakriti and Purusha.
Oh, Purusha. Okay,
so when we say consciousness, it means Purusha.
Purusha. Okay.
It's Purusha.
Yes, that doubt alone, as I was writing down, I had. Otherwise, it is coming out nicely.
Okay, very good. So we will actually go into the next paragraph. So Hamsini Bhagini, do you want to read? Bhagini, I know you didn't come for a long time. Do you want to read, and maybe we'll help you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Human beings are not without beginning because their origin depends on earth. Should I read everything and then try to explain?
Yes, you read first and then you take each sentence and then you explain, okay?
If they have originated from the earth, they must have also obtained their unit consciousness from earth. They could not have got it from any other entity, and so there must be consciousness in earth. For instance, butter can be obtained from milk only because it exists in milk. Similarly, unit consciousness exists in the earth. Otherwise, the human body obtained from the earth could not have unit consciousness. Butter, when it exists in milk, cannot be identified as butter till it is separated with the help of a churning machine. In the same way, unit consciousness is unidentifiable or dormant in the earth. It can only be perceived when a human mind is created to reflect it. It thus has to be accepted that there is consciousness even in the earth. The earth was created from the sun, and the sun is the only ball of fire, the existence of which is dependent on certain gases found primarily in the aerial factor. That the sun therefore depends for its existence on the aerial factor, and has originated from it. Similarly, the aerial factor, Vayu, is dependent on the ethereal factor, because if there were no other ether, there would be no space for air to exist. The origin of air can be traced to ethereal factor. We can trace it back to the ethereal factor to be the source of the air, sun, earth, and then human beings. Human beings are not without beginning because their origin depends on earth. I think it's saying that human beings cannot exist. Their beginning comes from earth and it depends on earth. If they have originated from the earth, they must have also obtained their unit consciousness from the earth. It's saying that since human beings stem from earth, therefore the unit consciousness also comes to the human from earth. They could not have got it from another entity, and so there must be consciousness in the earth. Because humans come from the earth, it is possible for only unit consciousness to come from the earth, and that means that the earth itself also has unit consciousness. For instance, butter can be obtained from milk only because it exists in milk. Similarly, unit consciousness exists in the earth. Otherwise, the human body obtained from earth could not have unit consciousness. It's comparing the example how butter can come from milk because it exists in milk. Therefore, unit consciousness can come from earth because it exists only from earth. But butter, when it exists in milk, cannot be identified as butter till it is separated with the help of a churning machine. In the same way, unit consciousness is unidentifiable or dormant in the earth, and can only be perceived when the human mind is created to reflect it. I think it's saying how you can't exactly call earth unit consciousness, but just because unit consciousness comes from earth, in the same way, unit consciousness is not is like it stays dormant in the earth until the human mind is crafted in a way where it can understand it and I guess recognize it.
Yeah, house the consciousness.
Huh?
It can house the consciousness until a human body and human mind is created. Only then it can house the unit consciousness. Then only then the dormant consciousness becomes manifested.
It has thus to be accepted that there is consciousness even in the earth. The earth was, it's just summarizing that that means that earth is also conscious in its own way. The earth was created from the sun, and the sun is the only ball of fire, the existence of which is dependent on certain gases found primarily in the aerial factor. Earth was created from the sun, and since the sun is made primarily of gases, what is aerial factor?
Aerial factor means vayu.
Vayu.
Vayu tattva.
So the gases are like the aerial factor, which is like almost like vayu, a type of vayu.
Yeah.
Okay. Similarly, the vayu is dependent on the ethereal factor. What is the ethereal factor?
Ethereal factor means akasha tattva, space.
Similarly, vayu is dependent on akasha tattva because without the akasha tattva, air cannot cease to exist.
Cannot exist, yeah. Without the akasha, without space, the air cannot exist.
Yes. The origin of air can be traced to the ethereal factor. We can trace back the ethereal factor to be the source of air, sun, earth, then human beings. Let's say because without, I guess, the universe, the kind of place, air cannot exist. And since air comes from this thing, and it is the root of the sun, earth, and since earth comes from human beings, it's almost like a cycle where everything depends on this ethereal factor. I have a question. What does unit consciousness exactly mean in like more simpler terms?
Unit consciousness means jivatma. Jivatma. Unit consciousness in simple terms is jivatma. So every individual has we have a body, we have a mind, and we also have a jivatma. So in the previous pravachan, you were not there, so we had talked about how the mind got created, right? We said there are three components of the mind. One is were you able to listen to the last week's recording?
No, I had a lot of robotics meetings that took a long time, so I didn't. I was busy
okay.
for a few weeks.
Okay. So you actually send me your email address later on in the chat message. You can just put your email address. I want to talk to you. Okay, and also your phone number. So okay, sorry. So going back to the your question, how do we know what exactly you mean by Jivatma, right? So we talked in the prior sessions that how human beings, we have a mind. We have a mind. All of us have a mind, right? And there are three components of a mind. There are three components. One is the Mahat Tattva, and then the Aham Tattva, and then the Chitta, right? The Mahat Tattva is I exist. Everybody has this feeling of I exist, right? I am there, I'm there, I'm there. I know I exist. Everybody has that feeling. That is called as the Mahat Tattva. And then the Aham Tattva is the doer I, right? When we want to do an action, the Aham Tattva is the one that does the action. And how does the Aham Tattva do the action? Is that it engages the Chitta, which is the movie screen of the mind, which is like a movie screen, right? The Aham Tattva gives the order. Like for instance, if the Aham Tattva wants to see the book, right? The book is in front of me and I want to see the book. That is the action I want to do. I want to see the book. So then what happens? Chitta, with the help of the Indriyas, with the help of the Chakshur Indriya, with the help of the eyes, the Chitta, it captures the microscopic fraction of a wave from the book, right? The Indriyas, the Chakshur Indriya, the eyes, capture the wave from the book, which is called as a Tanmatra, and the eyes capture the Tanmatra, the wave from the book, and then it passes that wave to the Chitta. Then what the Chitta does is that it becomes like the book. It's a movie screen. It projects the book, and when Chitta projects the book, then the mind, then the Aham Tattva sees the book. So this is how the three components of the mind work. So when I say I exist, right? When I say I exist, when I say my mind, who is this mind, right? Mama manaha, mera man, my mind. When we say who is this mind, that means that behind the mind there is something else. And what is that something else? Which is the pure I. That pure I is Jivatma. Without that Jivatma, I will not have a mind. That pure I is Jivatma, and that is the unit consciousness, right?
Okay. I get it.
Okay. So yeah. So over here, Bagni, don't forget to put your email and your telephone number on the chat. Okay.
Okay. I'll do it now.
Yeah. So over here, as I was telling you that first there is Atma, there is this Purusha, right? From the Purusha, what first came into existence is Akasha. Akasha Tattva first came into existence from Purusha, right? Purusha manifested himself as Akasha Tattva due to the influence of Prakriti, due to the influence of the gunas of Prakriti. Akasha Tattva came into being, and then from Akasha Tattva, Vayu Tattva came into being, and from Vayu Tattva, the Agni Tattva came into being. From Agni Tattva, Jala Tattva, Jalam came into being, and from Jala Tattva, Prithvi Tattva, which is the Kshiti Tattva. So this is the order. From Akashat Vayuhu, from Akasha to Vayu, Vayu to Agni, Agni to Jalam, Jalam to Prithvi, right? So this is the order in which the Atma manifested itself in these different forms, right? So in this paragraph, we are basically saying that the human beings have a beginning, and how did they came? What is the sequence? What is the sequence like? How did the human beings come into existence, and how did the human being have this consciousness? How did they have this Jivatma, right? So the sequence, just as the butter is existing in milk, right? But we cannot see it. Butter is there in milk, but we cannot see it. But the fact that we can extract it from milk is the proof that butter is present in the milk, right? So when you churn the milk, you get butter. So that then we know, okay, butter is there in the milk. Until we do this exercise of churning, butter never gets separated. So we cannot, in order to prove that butter is there in the milk, the only thing that we can do is churning. Similarly, because Atma manifested itself as Akasha, and it manifests itself as vayu, it manifested itself as agnihi, it manifested itself as jalam, it manifested itself as earth. So earth is nothing but consciousness. Earth is nothing but consciousness. So earth is consciousness, is a manifested form of consciousness. So the consciousness is there in earth, right? Earth is consciousness and it is made of consciousness. So now the question is, you have the human beings, right? The human beings came from earth. The human beings, they got created from the earth. So they also have the consciousness, and they got that consciousness from earth. So it existed in earth, and so they got it from earth. Just like the butter is there in milk, and when we churned it, we got it separated. Like that, when the human beings came into existence, the consciousness which was there in the earth got separated and got attached to the human beings. So that sequence is what is being demonstrated over here. So the human beings have come from dependent upon and have come from that earth, right? So this is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning, giving you an overview here, right? So the human beings, the human beings, so the consciousness actually came from the earth. It was dormant in the earth and came from the earth. So the sun is dependent upon certain gases, and therefore the vayu tattva, which in turn it depends on the akasha tattva, which is called as the akasha tattva or the vyama tattva. So the earth is dependent on the sun, right? And then the earth is dependent on the water, and then the water is dependent on the fire, and fire is dependent on the vayu is dependent on the akasha tattva. So finally the akasha tattva is the final factor, and that akasha tattva emerged from purusha. So the vayu of which the sun is made is dependent on the akasha tattva. Vayu is dependent on akasha tattva. That is the sequence, right? So akashat vayuhu, vayoho agnihi, agnehe up is jalam, adbyah prithvi. So that is the order. So each of it is dependent on the previous one. And what is this akasha tattva dependent on? The akasha tattva is dependent on that purusha. So that is the sequence of the karya karana bhava. One is coming from the next, is dependent on the next, caused by the next one. So ultimately we are getting to the human beings coming from the earth, right? Coming from sun, coming from air. So human beings come from the earth, which is coming from the sun, which is coming from the air, which is coming from the akasha tattva. So on that basis we can actually move forward, right? So what we can understand is that human beings have got the consciousness from the earth. The earth had the consciousness, and that is how the human beings have the consciousness. So for instance, we know that the milk has butter, and when you make buttermilk, right, buttermilk also has butter. How do we know that buttermilk has butter? Because the butter existed in milk, and that is how the butter is there in the buttermilk, right? If butter did not exist in milk, then it cannot get created in the buttermilk. The same way, the consciousness was there in the earth, and that is how the human beings get the consciousness. It was not there in earth, they could not have got it. And how did the earth get the consciousness? It got it from its previous factor. Earth got it from water, and water got it from fire got it from air got it from akasha. And how did akasha get the consciousness? It got it directly from purusha. The purusha manifested himself as akasha. So that is the sequence. That is how this earth is getting created, and this is just the beginning. We are going to be talking about it a little bit more. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any questions over here so far? It's Shubham Bagni, is it making sense?
Yes.
Shubham Bagni.
Yes.
Okay. You're understanding, right, how this srishti is happening? So what we will do is I have a picture of how the srishti is happening. I'll show it to you pictorial representation, so that you can just visualize it and see how it is. So that it makes more sense to understand it, right? Okay. Okay. So how is all your yogic practices going on? So Hamsini Bagni, are you able to implement any of the things that we talked about?
Like I have a question. Sattvic diet is one of them, right?
Were you able to implement the Sattvic Ahar?
Mostly. I feel like I'm slowly trying to implement.
Oh, you're trying to implement?
Yeah.
That is really...
Because sometimes like people around me and the things I have access to not always can be sattvic. But my mom is enthusiastic about it, so it's a little bit easier. But sometimes like I have to get used to changing.
So you're able...
But I'm trying.
Okay, that is really good, Bagni. You're trying, right? That's really very good. If you're able to slowly implement it in your life, it will have a long-term benefit. You're only like 14 or 15 years old right now.
Yeah.
So it will have a long-term. It will have a great impact on you. So I think you should sincerely try. Are you able to do anything else that we talked about, Nirjala Upvasa or anything or any of that?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I want to talk to you. I will connect with you later on. So what about Pushpalata Bagni? Are you able to...
Actually, we had a challenge in our yoga class itself that for 1 month no milk, and if no milk and sugar, and if you have milk for coffee or something, you drink without sugar. So now for this past 2 months, milk which I used to have at least 2 glasses per day, now I brought it to half glass per day. These two, this one. So slowly that I definitely see, I do not want to lie and all. I cannot bring everything in this one because I have family, that is my husband and son are good eaters, so I have to make, I can do it myself, that's all. So I have brought it down now like this. Then our this one insisted that daily we used to do Surya Namaskaras on Sundays. Now for the past 2 months, daily Surya Namaskaras, and low plank and high plank is compulsory 2 times a day. So that I am doing. And Upavasa, I am doing Nirjala Upavasa, trying to have only 2 meals per day. So this
you're doing Nirjala Upavasa?
No, I am not started Nirjala Upavasa.
Oh, you have not started Nirjala. Okay.
Because I was doing it actually. Now after my retirement and other things, no, certain this one, I'm only doing what you say, monthly once or once in 2 months, juice fast, that's all, but not Nirjala Upavasa.
Okay, Bagni.
Okay.
What about yeah, okay, good. Yeah, try to implement as much as you can the Sattvic Ahar. Yeah, and don't worry about your family members. First you do it for yourself, and then you can think about your family members. First try to do it yourself.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Nirjala Upavasa, when is it only on Ekadashi?
Yeah, on Ekadashi you can. So for you, like, because you're going to school and all that, right? If you find it difficult and you want to first try it out on a Sunday or something, that will be a good thing for you. You can try it out on a Saturday or Sunday. You can do the Upavasa on Saturday because Saturday and Sunday are holidays, so you can do it on Saturday and then you can break your fast on Sunday. So you can try that out during the weekend because you're going to school, and you try it out on a weekend and see how it is, and then later on slowly, if you're comfortable, then you can slowly implement it even during school days.
I have a question. Like while trying to get used to the Nirjala Upavasa, can you like eat fruits even though they they like contain a little bit water, so like can get more used to like slowly eating the
So
food.
so initially if you feel that you are, it's impossible for you to be there and you feel very weak and all that, so then in the morning, right, in the morning, as soon as you get up, maybe you can have little bit of fruits, and then rest of the day you can do nirjala upavasa.
Okay.
Yeah, start like that. Yeah. And I will try to touch base with you on WhatsApp. You have WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to touch base with you on WhatsApp, and so if when you want to do the nirjala upavasa, you can be in touch with me, so I can guide you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And also, if you have questions, you can contact me directly. We can touch base, because it's this is the right age for you to implement all of this, right? It becomes easy. It becomes more easier when you're very young to implement all of these changes that we're talking about. So yeah. And Shubham Bhagini, how about you? Everything going good?
Yes, Bhagini.
You're able to do the nirjala upavasa, satvik ahara, and all that?
Nirjala upavasa is okay, but for satvika it's not okay. Sometimes it's not okay.
Sometimes not okay because of work.
Yes, Bhagini, I eat only there.
Oh, sometimes you're not able to take food from home all the time.
No, Bhagini.
Okay. So we'll talk about that. Are you able to do the asanas?
Mostly I do, but sometimes I miss.
Okay, mostly you do twice a day or once a day?
Once a day only.
Once a day you're able to do. You're able to do sadhana as well?
No, Bhagini. Matlab, mostly it's misses like.
Oh, okay. No, you should seriously try to do sadhana every day. In addition to doing asanas, you have to do sadhana, because you don't want to miss sadhana, as we talked about today, right? The goal of life is what? To attain Brahma. And if that is the goal of life, sadhana is very, very important. So having learned sadhana, you should not miss it. You should do it. It's very important. You should, even if you are able to sit for 10 minutes, it's a good thing. Instead of missing it, start with sitting for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Even 5 minutes, if you're able to sit in sadhana and do sadhana, it is a great thing. So don't miss it. That's what I would say. Right? No matter how you're busy, uh, don't miss sadhana. Do it at least for 10 minutes every day.
Okay, Bhagini.
Yeah, you can do it. I'm sure you have 10 minutes, right?
Yes, Bhagini.
Okay, very good. Okay, so yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. If there is no questions, then we can end it over here.
Okay, Bhagini. Namaskar, Bhagini.
Namaskaraha, dhanyavadah.
Dhanyawad.
Okay, namaskaraha, dhanyavadah. I'm going to end the session now.
Dhanyavadah.
Dhanyavadah, Bhagini. Namaskaraha.